understanding this. He's not getting all uptight about this. He's not looking down on me. And it's coming quite naturally. And so the training of the therapist is one to be able to be accepting of one's, to be conscious of one's woundedness and brokenness, and to be accepting of oneself in that humanity, okay? And I can now use that to relate to my client's brokenness. And I can get deeper with that person than I could ever have gone if I had not opened myself up to my woundedness, so that my woundedness can relate to their woundedness. Okay, this is the self-access, so that when you get to self-management, in terms of how do I use myself, I can consciously be thinking, okay, I can use the fact that, you know, that I know what it's like to be deprived of affection and closeness. Okay, I know how lonely I've been. So I can use that part of my life when I'm trying to relate to this person. And because of that, I'm able to form a relationship that's much more intimate than I could ever have made if I had not opened myself up to my own experience. Okay, so this is talking about using a relationship in a therapeutic manner. But you can't do that if you don't want to admit to yourself and be in touch with, you know, I'm not a perfect human being. But I still need to be able to love myself and accept myself in the process.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I think in part you answered the question that I had, talking about our experiences being a resource. I know part of our training, at least in the beginning, is no self-disclosure, don't self-disclose in the room. I think that's out of fear of letting the therapy become about you working through your own
Absolutely.
issues. But I guess I'm thinking, where does this training and mastery of self, like, does it use self-disclosure? Would you say to self-disclose, or how do you toe that boundary, I guess?
Well, yeah, boundaries, absolutely. You know, I haven't used the word self-disclosure yet, right? Okay. What I've talked about is knowing ourselves. I've talked about having access to our own stuff. I've talked about using it, where we're trying to relate, we're trying to make an assessment, we're trying to make an intervention. I've made no reference to, you know, self-disclosure, except I said sometimes I can share a little bit of my craziness with people, right? Self-disclosure is something that's special, you know, because there you're really putting something of yourself and you're revealing it. And once it's out of your mouth, you can't put it back in, okay? And so if you're going to self-disclose, if you think you're that making that kind of connection will help, okay, you should know really why you're doing it and how it should be done, so that it works towards the goal you have, the specific goal you have with your client. You should have all of that worked out in your head before you open your mouth. You know, because if you don't have it, then you're being reckless and you're opening yourself up and sharing something that may upset the person you're talking to, your client, who says, I didn't know you were that crazy. You know, how can I share myself with you? You know, and there's also the danger there that you get too much into wanting to tell your story, that then you forget about what they're experiencing and how this is affecting them, and you're there for them, you're not there for yourself. So if a little bit of yourself can help, by all means, self-disclose what you think will accomplish the goal that you have. You really have to be, you can't do this without being very disciplined as a therapist. Okay? We're talking about being in touch with yourself, having access to yourself, knowing how to use yourself and to relate to people, to make an assessment, to make an intervention. And what I'm talking about is a training where you go through all this self-disclosure for yourself, okay, self-acceptance, okay, and you relate that to the clinical work that you're trying to do, and this is how I use it in this particular situation, in that particular situation. And this is like an athlete training to do something, okay, where they use their bodies to do this, that, which it may be very challenging, and they go over it and over it and over it, so that then when they get into the playing field, they use themselves in a way that's effective and that they don't endanger themselves, they don't endanger somebody else. Okay? This requires real self-discipline. That's why I emphasize the training component of it. Okay, what do I have here? Well, okay, you know, person-to-person relationship and social context. All I do to help funnel through the relationship, to be conscious of it, is that whether you're trying to form a therapeutic relationship, you know, a relationship isn't just I like you and I support you. You know, a therapeutic relationship can be one where I'm going to challenge you. Okay, it can be one where I am not going to let you be dependent on me. It can be one where I do allow you to be dependent on me. Okay, I have to. How I relate is a therapeutic intervention in and of itself. Okay, and if I want to understand this person, and we want to relate in such a way that I provoke something, and I provoke a situation where I ask these people to get into a discussion about their marital problem, and it's going to get hot, and it's going to be unpleasant. Can I handle that heat? Can I handle that unpleasantness? Can I still be in control of the situation while they're doing that? I have to be able to relate to them in such a way that I'm still in charge of the therapeutic process, and I can allow you to get into this heated discussion, and I am strong enough, okay, that I can manage this thing and not let it get out of control. That may be the kind of relationship I need to be able to do at that time. Okay, so doing a relationship is a therapeutic decision, and how I do it is a therapeutic decision. It's a clinical decision. Okay, so I'm available, I'm open, I have all of this available that I can use, but I have to do it in a way that's directed towards what I'm trying to accomplish as a therapist. It has to be very disciplined. You really have to be trained to it. Okay, you don't just do it. Okay, I relate to the client in the social context. You know, there are two things having to do with social context. Okay, one is when you're dealing with it, it's what is the effect on the person of the particular social context that they grew up in. Okay, and the other one is what is going on in their social context that is actually affecting their ability to be able to function well. So one is objective, one is outside, but that does affect them. The other one is the imprint that it makes on them. You know, I'm like 150 years old right now, you know, I still go into social situations, formal situations, and I get anxious. You know, I'm still the kid that I was, you know, where I was always the outsider, you know. So I went to a Catholic school, you know, grade school. All the kids were Irish. There were 1 or 2 of us who were Puerto Ricans. There was 1 black kid, 2 Puerto Rican kids, and the rest of the guys were Irish, and the girls were Irish, and they were foreign to me. I mean, really foreign to me. Okay, and I was uncomfortable. You know, I didn't know how to behave with these people. Okay? They acted in ways that were not. It was not personally comfortable for me. You know, then I go to college, you know, then I go to the Mentor Clinic, I go to all these places where I'm dealing with people who are foreign to me. Okay, I still get anxious, I still get uncomfortable. Okay, you know, I belong to certain clubs in the city that are pretty fancy clubs and all that, I still get anxious. You know, I've never been able to get over it. Okay, so that's my thing. That's the effect on me of having grown up where I grew up, and having had the experiences of being ignored, okay, of people just passing right by me or looking down at me, and mine not having a way of dealing with that. Okay, never left me. Okay, so I confess to that. That's there. I can fake it, and I usually get away with it, but I know what's going on within me. So there's the effect on us of what our social situation is. But then there's the other piece, which is the real social situation that our clients may be in, you know, that we have to incorporate into the therapy that we're doing. Yeah. I remember when my parents stayed in the South Bronx after I moved to Philly, and trying to get, good medical care for them, it was hard as hell. I couldn't do it. I mean, there were a lot of little clinics there. The medical care was awful. I remember the hospital that they went to, we used to call it, it was still as bad as when I grew up, we used to call it the Bronx Butcher Shop, as kids, and it still was, So I'd be totally frustrated, having to come from Philadelphia to go to New York and to try to find decent medical care. Well, that's a real issue. Okay. I'm supervising one guy right now who's dealing with this woman who's raising kids on her own. She's about 30 years old. She's been on the streets since she was 14 years of age, run away from home, been through everything, okay? And she's in public housing, and in the public housing that where she is, the mailboxes are not locked. They're all open. They just have your name on it. And there's another tenant in that same building steals her mail. So she wouldn't get her mail for a month. And she knew that it was this woman, because this woman had many ways of communicating, I don't like you. Okay, this was another tenant. So she goes, she wants to complain to the people who run the public housing, the therapists. I'm encouraging the therapist to get her to make a complaint. And they said, well, we can't hear your situation unless this woman also comes in so we can hear her side. I said, why would this woman come in and admit that she's doing this? She's never going to show up, so you're never going to listen to her. So I say to the guy, we have city councilmen, and find out what district she's in. Call the city councilman, tell them what problem she's having. Well, he told her to do that. Well, they didn't call back, and they didn't call back, and she calls again, gets very discouraged. I said, why don't you try? Well, he tries, they didn't call him back either. So then he begins to realize what trouble she's having getting heard. So then I said, you push it a little harder, okay? And you make yourself heard. And so he goes way out of his way, finally gets himself heard, and finally when he gets himself heard, they get to the big public housing people, and they finally respond to her. He got to know what this woman was going through. He had to change the woman's environment, do something with it, in order to be able to be effective therapeutically. Okay, it wasn't just what happens in the office. He had to open up the realm that he was dealing with. And he had to know what it was like for her, particularly if she's black, she's 30, she doesn't have a husband, she's been in the street all these years, okay? Well, she wasn't very important to them, okay? And you've got to make her important, and you've got to get her to the point where she feels important when she gets in there so that they do hear her. And then the woman actually started to take pictures of this other woman when she did these things. She got all kinds of evidence, put it together like a lawyer. She's very smart, okay? And once they gave her a hearing, okay, she had great argument, could back it up. They responded to her, and she felt, hey, I matter. And she said that. She says, I matter. I really matter. Well, that's therapy. Because I remember I was working when at the time of the child guidance clinic, and I was dealing with assigning cases to the staff there, but also assigning cases to medical students, as psychiatric residents at Children's Hospital at that time. Well, one day the committee comes in. They came in as a committee to talk to me. I said, yeah, what do you want? You're giving us these patients. It was South Philly, it's a black neighborhood. And they have all these problems. Yeah, so that's their reality. Well, when are we going to get real patients? That did not go well with me. So, we had to deal with the administration there and all that kind of stuff to get them to realize these are real people too. These are real people and they matter also. Okay. The point I'm making here is, okay, when you think of the social context, okay, you have to deal with it at two levels. One is, what imprint has it made? How has it affected the person who's living it? Okay, because it does affect you. Okay? And it affects each person differently, so you can't go stereotyping. Just because this person's Hispanic, or this person's black, or this person's whatever, you know what they're going through. No, you don't know what they're going through until you really get in there and ask them, okay, and get into their stories with them. Okay? So what is the effect on them, and how is it affecting the way they relate to other people? You know, if you're a young woman living in the slums and you've been raped, okay, there's been incest in your family, you've prostituted yourself for drugs, and so on and so on and so on. It gets to the point, you know, you wonder, why can't she really trust the man? Why can't she have an intimate relationship with a man? She's been so used, so abused, okay, that she has a hard wall around her, and yet she's lonely. She wants a relationship, but she doesn't dare trust. Well, you have to understand her experience. You have to understand what it's done to her. And that has to be addressed and understood and felt. Okay? But then there's also the reality of the situation that they're in, like the example that I just gave you. That no matter how it's affecting them, we have to be prepared to say, what is the forum, the environment that we have to intervene in? Well, if they're having social problems dealing with the environment, the schools, the hospitals, the neighborhood, the gangs, and so on, that we have to take that into consideration too, and that's we're treating that. Okay, we're working with that as well as we're working with their inner experience. Both things have to be taken into account. Okay, all right. All of that though has to also be done through the relationship that we have with our clients, so that this good white therapist dealing with this relatively young black woman in her situation, he did not know what she was dealing with until he tried to make those phone calls, until he tried to get heard. And he found that he wasn't being heard, she much less. And what it took for her to be heard, and finally the difference, the work he had been doing for her to respect herself, to think well of herself in spite of all that she had gone through in her earlier years, and she finally won. And she said, we were working on an article, and I told him, the title of this article is going to be, I Matter Too. You know, those were her words. When she finally won her case, you know, I matter too. First time in her life. And I said, this is integral to the therapy that you're doing. These are real clients. These are real patients. Not these other people are only real patients. Okay? The training program. I finally got to it. Okay. I'm going to go through this very quickly because I want to spend the rest of our, few minutes we have left with some questions and answers. Here at Drexel, in the program that we have, we work in quarters, not semesters. Okay. First quarter, we have each of the students come up with me and the person who's working with me. We go over, help them to identify their signature theme. What are your personal issues? Give me a little bit of your history. And we try to do it in such a way that they not only reveal it, but they feel safe in revealing it, and they see the advantage of revealing it. And other students then can identify with them, they can identify with the others. So this becomes something that is just a very natural thing. As a therapist, I need to know myself, I need to be aware of myself, I need to be in touch with myself. We spend the first quarter doing that. Second quarter, we say, okay, let's practice doing all of this, but in the context of therapy, because this isn't therapy for you. It's not meant to be therapy for you. But this is so that you can have yourself, all of you, accessible for the work that you're going to be doing with your clients. All right. And then so we do role play. You know, some of the students will volunteer to be clients, and then this one person, it's their turn, and then they're the therapist, and as they're trying to do the therapy, I stop them and I say, right at this moment, okay, you know, when I see it's a moment that I think is really a touchy thing or a difficult thing for them, what are you feeling? Well, they were doing this, and I understand they were doing that. What are you feeling? Stop for a moment. Think about what you're experiencing. And then they stop, and then they reflect, and they say, oh, I was getting very tense. You know, I was shutting down, okay? Because they were giving me so much trouble that I was starting to get angry, so then I began to withdraw. Oh, okay, cool. Now, what did that teach you about them? Okay. Well, this was really scary for them and what they were going through there. Okay, so then how now are you going to deal with, okay, this scary situation that they're presenting because they're fighting with each other? Because you have to be in charge of this. Your reaction is natural. Your reaction is what my reaction would have been, anybody's reaction when you saw that kind of fighting. Okay, so cool it, relax. You're responding in a normal way, but what it did is it taught you something about how scary it is for them. Okay. Now, what do you need to do? Let me make it safe for them to talk about this. Okay, let's talk about how you're going to make it safe for them to talk about this without them killing each other. Okay, so that they would do role play, rehearse. You know, what do I do? What am I reacting to? What do I need to reach for within myself in order to be able to relate to this person? So we're doing exercises that you need to help you to do these things when you're in a real clinical situation. And if we're not doing role play, they're bringing in videotapes, okay, and the videotapes of their clinical work. And I asked them to just take a 10-minute or 15-minute segment of it, okay, what was going on between you and this kid. We have, you know, we had a situation. The student brought this thing in, and this kid was talking about how he was being picked on in the school that he was in, and how this upset him. He was beginning to open up, and then the therapist then said, well, what happens at home? Is there fighting at home? And the kid then ignored what the therapist was saying, and the kid started to look away, and the therapist then said, I said about your family. And she started to press and press and press, and the kid just began to shrivel and close down. And I said, stop for a moment. Look at this boy's face. Look at this boy's posture. He's not looking at you. He was looking at you before. He's looking down at the ground right now. He's looking away from you. What's going on? Oh, I'm bullying him right now, you know, because I thought this was the place to go. Well, that also told you that he wasn't ready to go there, you know. Okay. Well, but you know, it's not that you were bad. It's that I want you to be aware of that. I want you to read it. I want you to accept the fact that there are times when you're a therapist, you're going to feel helpless. Okay? You're going to feel like you lose your power. Okay? That you don't really have them. Okay? We all experience that, and you got to get comfortable with that, and you can't press that. Okay? So you back off. Okay? And you find another way to make a connection with the person. If you lose the connection, the rest of the therapy fails. So if the connection that you have with this kid is at risk in any way, and you feel the tension, address the relationship. Okay? To hell with the issue, address the relationship, get them comfortable with you, okay? So that it's all right to be with you, it's all right to take risks with you, it's all right to open themselves up with you. Okay? Oh, okay. You know, so we go through all of these exercises. Third quarter, what we do is we have them do a live supervision thing where we have actors. We have actors who are paid to play the role of clients. And I'm on the other side of one of these screens. We have closed circuit TV with the person who's working with me. Have a bug in the ear, and I say to them, okay, when you go in there, you know, I want you just to focus on the relationship. Okay? Pay attention to everything else, but focus on the relationship. You have to establish the relationship with them, and then you can start addressing the issues that they're bringing in. And you'll get a better feeling for how to address them if you have a relationship where they feel safe with you. Okay, so don't start trying to fix them in one session. You're only going to have one session with them. Okay? And so we have scenarios, and these actors, they've done this many times, and they do a great job in making you feel like it's a real experience. And so we give them that, and I try to supervise them through the bug in the ear. I get them to come out usually around 3 times. At the beginning, shortly after we started the session, in the middle of the session, to correct course, and then towards the end of the session. And I try to guarantee that they have a successful session, that they learn from it. Okay? Not that they've cured the family, but that they've done something effective and that they handle themselves in the way they should have handled themselves. Okay? So I try to guide them through that. So it's like, okay, it really is safe to be in there. It is safe to have supervision around my personal stuff and how I react to clients, and so that they're open also to the supervision. Okay? And what they find is, and we get the feedback from institutions and from clinics where these students go, they say, your students are different. They come in open. They come in ready to talk about what they're going through with their clients, you know, and we really get a chance to help them to really connect in a way that makes for good, effective therapy. Okay. So that's the training that we do. And then if they go into supervision later on, after they graduate, okay, in the supervision we're bringing together the personal with the professional. I'm going to read one thing to you as a closing thing. There's more to talk about, but we don't have the time. At the end of the year, we asked the students to write what the training was, how it impacted them at a personal level and as therapists. Okay, so I'm just going to read. I have a couple here, but I only have time to read one. Okay, this is what she wrote. POT, personal therapist training. Okay. It's hard to say if POT is the only catalyst to the changes that have taken place within me over this past year, but it has certainly been a huge component of it. This is talking about personal changes in her life. I have gone from essentially hating myself, my need for attachment, my weakness, to accepting all of these things as important aspects of myself. I have been able to own who I am more than ever before, to understand why I am the way I am, and to release a lot of self-blame. My relationship with my partner has changed tremendously as a result. We're in a healthier place than we have ever been. I have been able to come to terms with the harm that I have caused, contextualize it, but also take responsibility for it and for changing it. I have entered therapy and have been able to ask for my needs more honestly and effectively. I know that I'm still far from perfect, but the transformation within me has been profound. I can honestly say I'm happy with who I am, feel comfortable with the things I still struggle with, and experience myself as a whole individual despite them. Okay. I never intended for this to be therapeutic. Okay, and what we're discovering is that helping therapists to learn how to use themselves, to have access to themselves, not to be ashamed of themselves, to work with themselves, it's therapeutic. It's not therapy, because we're trying to make therapists out of them, but it affects people very profoundly in a personal way. And then she says, professional changes. My understanding of the therapeutic process has radically changed as well. I have come into this program thinking I knew a lot about therapy, social justice, myself, and how the world worked. In many ways, my ideas have been humbled. I have softened towards other humans. My signature theme had me low-key hating weakness and secretly focused on figuring out who was right and who was wrong in the therapy room. I had this sense of justice, accountability that I needed to fulfill, which I think was more about me processing my past than being an effective therapist. It was easier to deal with absolutes than attempt to hold the complex nature of human interactions. I am much more able to be with my clients now in whatever messy or mucky place they exist. I'm more able to simply allow things to be where they are and attending to them there rather than trying to force them to be somewhere else. While I do still get such stuck in fix-it mode from time to time, it is far less pronounced than it once was. I can relate to my clients' underlying emotions rather than getting stuck in their behaviors. I'm tired, okay. Questions, comments? Let me just blow my nose for a moment if you don't mind. You can breathe, stand up, do something you want to stretch for a moment. Go ahead. Do you have a mic for her?
So I was wondering about that first stage and guiding your exploration with your cohort. If you could talk a little bit more about why you use the cohort as part of the process and like how you integrate them, if it's like for cohesive, to have cohesive cohorts or support, if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the importance of the cohort is that instead of you just telling me, you know, what a mess you are in my office, you're doing it in front of your friends who thought you were really well put together, you know. And what happens is that you do that, you're nervous, I try to make you comfortable, but then when your cohort responds, and I say to them, I don't want you to speak to her issue, I want you to speak to what this brought up for you, and then they start telling their issues, the things that this brought up for them, their problems, their hang-ups. It just sort of brings down the temperature for you, and you say, well, I'm not alone. Each one of them just now confessed about somewhere where they were, you know, messed up. And that experience then begins to prepare you to get comfortable with your own issues so that you don't have to live in shame, hide them out, whisper them, you know, to somebody. You can actually talk about them. You can actually get help with them. Okay. There's another part to it, though. The other part of it is that if you're the person who's observing and responding, okay, what I'm really asking you to do is to empathize with the person who's up there talking about her issues. Because I'm asking you to speak to what this brought up for you. In other words, I want you to reflect upon how what she's talking about, how hard it is, how shameful it may be for her, and it brings up for you your own stuff, okay, you begin then to resonate. And you find that you're doing it, your person next to you is doing it, the other person's doing it. So what's happening is that this is an exercise and you're getting into the presenter's shoes. So I'm trying to get you now to learn to do something you need to do with your clients. Okay? And as each one takes a turn doing that, you know, the more you hear of it, okay, the more comfortable you get with the reality of our human brokenness, our human limitations. Okay, it doesn't feel like something really unusual and strange. It feels like this is the way life really is. This is the way humanity is. So I'm already trying to affect your attitude or your outlook towards your clients. So when your clients come with their stuff, whatever it is, okay, you actually experience it as, oh, okay, you have your stuff, I have my stuff. You're experiencing that. So then you can get into their stuff in a way that they can feel safe to talk with you about it. So this is a preparation for you to be aware of yourself, but it's also a preparation for you to be able to relate to people in their brokenness through your own brokenness. Got it? Okay.
Great question. So I guess my question is more of like when the tables are turned with the clients and yourself. So like if the power differentials are swapped, like an example I have for a client that I had is I was working with a 16-year-old white male who was saying like sexist jokes to try to make me laugh, and also bragging about like racist things he was saying in class.
Mm-hmm.
And so regarding like the sexist jokes, I felt like I had, like as a straight cis male, like I felt like I had more power in the room to kind of like set boundaries around what can be said or what's funny. But then as a person of color to a white person, it felt more triggering to me when he's bragging about like racist jokes in the classroom.
Right.
And so I guess I know you mentioned like having difficulty feeling like othered in your experience as a professional or in your church setting. So how do you kind of bridge those differences when, as a therapist, we are more marginalized than
Well, you know, one of the things that I emphasize in terms of the differentiation, because we're talking about differentiation here, okay, is that being in touch with your own issues, your own personal struggles, that's not enough. That'll help you to understand and relate to your client's struggles. But if you're really going to take it to where I think you need to take it if you're going to be an effective therapist, you need to make a commitment to yourself. I got to work on my own stuff. And I got to use whatever resources I need, you know, available to me to work on my stuff. And this is a lifelong commitment that I'm going to be making to myself. If I need therapy for myself, I get therapy for myself. If I have a parent, a spouse, or whatever, you know, and they can give help to me, so be it. I'm going to turn to them and I'm going to talk with them in ways that I never confess to them that I have these issues. Help me with this, encourage me, support me. Okay, work on your stuff, commit to yourself. Why? Okay, because I not only want you to get comfortable with being broken, but I also want you to get comfortable and familiar with what it's like to try to change and how hard it is to try to change. Okay, and